Dear child, today, the angels have chosen these cards so that you can understand. Did someone just defend your name when you weren't there to speak for yourself? Who was this person? Why did they feel the need to stand up for you? Take a deep, steady breath, dear soul. And as you gently exhale, let the weight you've been carrying begin to dissolve. You were never meant to hold it all on your own. The angels are already beside you, closer than your next breath, enfolding you in a quiet peace and a tender light that asks nothing of you but to rest. They have seen your silent strength, your hidden tears, and every whispered prayer that no one else heard. And now they gently speak this truth into your heart. You don't have to chase anything. You don't have to prove yourself anymore. Just breathe. Let yourself be held. Let yourself be. The healing has already begun. And everything you've been waiting for, the answers, the peace, the breakthrough, is already on its way to you, carried by grace, wrapped in divine timing. Dear child, you have known what it feels like to be left out in the cold. Not always physically, but emotionally, spiritually, and deeply within your heart. You have walked through moments where your presence was overlooked, where your efforts were dismissed, and where your pain was invisible to those who should have stood beside you. You've experienced the ache of abandonment, the sting of rejection, and the loneliness of knowing that people who once claimed to care simply turned away when you needed their support the most. There were times when the world felt too heavy, when you stood on the outside of rooms that used to feel like home, watching others laugh, connect, and belong, while your heart quietly fractured beneath a mask of composure. And through it all, you kept going. You didn't ask for pity. You didn't seek revenge. You carried your silence like a sacred offering, hoping someone, anyone, would see beyond the surface and understand the depth of what you were surviving. And heaven saw. The angels never turned away. They watched as you held your head high, even while your spirit trembled in the shadows of exclusion. They noted every tear that fell behind closed doors, every prayer whispered into the void, and every time you chose to stay kind when cruelty would have been easier. And now, dear one, the divine wants you to know someone else saw it too. There was a soul, someone who had once stood in the warmth of the crowd, someone who may have been caught in the noise and distraction of others, who began to see the emptiness left behind when your presence was no longer near. They noticed how the space felt different without you in it, how the energy shifted, how something beautiful and grounding had gone missing. And when they heard your name being spoken carelessly, when they witnessed someone twisting your story, mocking your absence, or suggesting you were to blame for the disconnect, something inside them shattered. It wasn't just anger, it was guilt, because they knew the truth. They had watched you struggle. Maybe they hadn't always known how to help. Maybe they didn't realize what you were going through until you were already gone. But when someone tried to reduce your experience, when they used your name without understanding your pain, this person could no longer stay quiet. With a voice shaking but sure, they stepped into the silence and said, "You don't get to talk about them like that. You weren't there when they were left out, when they were hurting, when they needed support, and no one showed up. You don't know how much they gave, how much they endured, how much they held inside just to keep the peace. You don't get to rewrite their story just because you don't understand it." Type Amen if you trust in angels' guidance. Dear child, in that moment, even heaven paused, because it was a sacred moment of truth, a moment where someone who had once stayed quiet finally found the courage to speak for the one who wasn't there to speak for themselves. And when they did, a wave of healing began to ripple through the spiritual realms. Their words did more than silence the disrespect. They created space for your story to be seen, for your truth to be honored, for your heart to be remembered. This person spoke not because they wanted to be a hero, but because their soul could no longer bear the weight of silence. They saw the divine in you, the resilience, the grace, the quiet beauty of someone who continued to love even while standing in the cold. And they realized in that one powerful moment that they could not call themselves a good person if they let that truth be buried beneath the noise. You may not know who this person is yet. You may not have seen their defense, may never hear about it from their lips. But the divine assures you that it happened. Somewhere, in a space where your absence was being used against you, your truth found a defender. And that soul has now shifted. They are no longer who they were before they stood for you. Their heart is being transformed. Their eyes are opening. And whether they come forward to reconnect or continue to speak for you from afar, they are now carrying a part of your light within them. A reminder that they were chosen to protect something sacred, even if they didn't know why at the time. This is how divine justice begins. Not with grand gestures, but with whispered truths that carry the weight of everything you've lived through in silence. So let your heart rest, dear child. Let it be held by the truth that you were never truly alone, even when it felt like the world turned away. Your suffering was seen, your loneliness was counted, your light was remembered. And now your story is being rewritten. Not by those who tried to erase you, but by those who are finally learning how to honor you. The cold you once walked through is over. The doors that once shut in your face are being opened by hands you didn't even expect to reach out. And the love, support, and recognition you always deserved is on its way. Not because you fought for it, but because heaven has ordained it. If this message touched the parts of you that were left out in the cold, and you feel the angels are calling your heart back into the warmth of truth, tell us in the comments, "They defended me when I wasn't there. My pain was not invisible, I am seen. I am remembered. I am rising." Dear child, there are times when your soul becomes the silent center of chaos, not of your own making. Times when people argue about you as if you're just a name, just a rumor, just a spark in someone else's fire. You've been drawn into conflicts without consent, into narratives shaped by those who never truly tried to understand you, where multiple voices clashed, each trying to claim their version of your truth. It is painful, beloved, to watch your essence turned into a topic, a target, a tug of war between prideful egos and confused hearts. And the worst part is that it often happens when you are not even present to defend yourself. Yet even in that battlefield of words and opinions, where noise often overpowers clarity, heaven placed one soul who rose, not to join the fight, but to cut through it. They did not defend you with anger, but with certainty. They did not speak to be heard. They spoke because they could no longer bear to hear your name tossed like a weapon between those who never saw your heart. This person may not have always been on your side. In fact, they may have once questioned you too. But something in them began to shift as they watched the way others spoke, the way small arguments turned into bitter attacks, and how your name became a spark that people used to ignite their own hidden frustrations. And in the middle of all that chaos, something inside this person, call it divine awareness, call it spiritual alignment, woke up. They realized that the energy surrounding your name was not about truth. It was about unresolved conflict, competition, jealousy, and projection. And they couldn't let that continue, so they spoke. Not loudly, but powerfully. Not emotionally, but with purpose. They said, "Enough. You're not talking about them anymore, not like this. You all think you know who they are, but you don't. You only see what your own wounds allow you to see. You're fighting your own shadows and blaming it on their light. And I'm done listening to it." Dear child, the moment those words were spoken, the room shifted. The air changed. What had been a chaotic storm of voices suddenly stilled, not because everyone agreed, but because someone had finally said what was true. That person, whether you know them closely or only from a distance, became your shield in a place where you had no armor. Their defense was not born from impulse. It was born from a slow awakening, from the realization that your name had been dragged into too many conversations that had nothing to do with the real you. And their words didn't just silence the noise, they exposed it. They made others uncomfortable, not because they were cruel, but because they made people confront their own motivations. And in doing so, they created space for your truth to return, untouched, unfiltered, and free. Beloved, heaven saw the whole moment unfold. The divine did not just see the person who defended you, but also every time you chose peace over pettiness, every time you walked away from drama, every time you let others win arguments just to protect your energy. You have been graceful in ways the world didn't reward. You have been wise in rooms that tried to make you small. You've been misunderstood by many, but not by the angels. They know the burden it has been to be dragged into the chaos of others' emotions. They know you never wanted to be the center of conflict. You just wanted to be seen clearly, loved honestly, and understood deeply. And because you held your light in silence while others argued, heaven made sure your silence would not be mistaken for weakness. They sent a voice to rise in your place, a voice that cleared the fog, calmed the battle, and made your soul visible again. This person who stood up for you may not have told you what they did. You may never hear the exact words they used, but the energy has reached you. Something has shifted around your name. People are thinking twice before speaking. Conversations that once used you as fuel are dying out, and the person who defended you now carries a piece of your truth with them. Their loyalty has been sealed by action. They are no longer just an observer. They are a protector, a guardian of the light they saw being misrepresented. Their heart will never see you the same again, and neither will those who heard their words. So rest now, dear child. Let your spirit breathe in the justice that has finally arrived, not through confrontation, but through divine alignment. You do not need to fight to be understood. You do not need to explain your worth to those committed to misunderstanding it. The battle has already turned in your favor, and the noise is losing its power. Let the angels wrap you in peace now. Let the past arguments dissolve in the light of truth. You are no longer the subject of their confusion. You are the soul who was worth standing up for, even in the middle of a storm. If your heart knows this message was meant for you, and you feel that shift in your spirit, write in the comments, "They spoke for me. The noise has ended. My peace is protected by heaven." Dear child, there are moments in life when the very ground beneath your feet feels like it's collapsing, when the people you once trusted begin to show their true faces, and the comfort of illusion is shattered by the unbearable weight of truth. You have known what it feels like to have everything you believed in fall apart before your eyes. Not just structures, but bonds, reputations, trust, and belonging. There came a time when your name was not just whispered in doubt, but dragged into chaos by those you thought would stand by you. You weren't there to defend yourself, but even if you had been, the storm was already raging, fed by misunderstandings, projections, and those who felt threatened by your light. It was as if the universe itself had decided to shake the foundation of everything so that the false could fall away and only the truth could remain. And beloved, in the middle of that divine unraveling, someone stood still. Amidst the wreckage of friendships and false alliances, someone looked into the destruction and saw you, not the version shaped by rumor or blame, but the soul who had held everything together until it could no longer be held. And that person, moved by something sacred and sudden, found the strength to speak when you could not. This soul didn't plan to be your defender. They may have even been part of the crowd at first, unsure of what to believe. But when the storm hit and the truth began to rise from the ashes, they saw with clear eyes what others refused to acknowledge, that you were not the one who broke the peace. You were the one who had been breaking for far too long under the weight of everyone else's silence. They watched the tower fall and realized the collapse was not your fault. It was the divine removing what could no longer serve you. And in that moment of revelation, they spoke. Perhaps quietly at first, but with growing fire. "No," they said. "You've all misunderstood. You don't know what they've carried, how long they tried to keep things together, how deeply they loved even while being slowly pulled apart. They didn't deserve this, and I won't let you continue to talk like they do." And with those words, the energy shifted, not because the damage was undone, but because truth had finally found its voice in a place where everything else had fallen. Dear child, the angels want you to know that this collapse was not a punishment. It was protection. What was taken from you, whether people, reputation, opportunities, or connections, was removed because it was built on foundations that could not hold the weight of your becoming. And while others looked on from a distance, some with judgment and some with silent pity, one soul felt compelled to rise from the ruins and speak in your name. They defended you not because they felt sorry for you, but because they were finally able to see what your silence had been saying all along. They saw your dignity in the face of disaster. They saw the strength it took not to retaliate. And they knew, without being told, that you had been holding a tower together with trembling hands, hoping someone would notice before it fell. When they spoke, it was not to change the past, but to redeem the narrative that others were trying to control. Their words did not erase the pain, but they planted a seed of healing, one that will grow quietly but surely in the hearts of those who were watching. And now, beloved, you are walking forward, no longer needing to explain or justify what happened. The ones who needed to see the truth are beginning to feel it in their spirits, even if they cannot admit it out loud. The person who defended you may remain anonymous for now, or they may come to you in time, carrying not apologies but recognition. They are different now. They are no longer blind to what was broken, and they carry within them a fierce loyalty, a sacred remembrance of the moment they saw your soul rise from the ruins like fire from ashes. They will not let your name be used carelessly again, and their defense of you has begun a quiet ripple of justice, one that will find its way back to you in divine timing, through blessings, through clarity, through peace. Let your heart exhale, dear child. You were never abandoned by heaven. Even in the collapse, you were protected. Even in the silence, your truth was guarded. Even when it felt like no one would stand up for you, the divine was preparing someone who would. Not because you needed rescuing, but because your story deserved to be told in truth, not twisted by fear or pride. The fire you walked through did not burn you. It refined you. And now, everything that rises from these ashes will be stronger, purer, and truly yours. If this message found your heart in the middle of its rebuilding, and you feel the divine reminding you that your name is being restored, type in the comments, "The tower has fallen, but truth stood up for me. I am rising with heaven's hand upon me." Dear child, there comes a time in every soul's journey when they must walk away, not because they are weak, not because they are running, but because they have finally realized that their spirit deserves more than what they've been settling for. You, beloved, have known this moment intimately. You have tasted the silent ache of letting go, not of something easy, but of something you poured your love into. You turned away from what once felt like everything because you finally accepted that it no longer reflected the truth of who you are. You walked away with tears in your eyes, but with wisdom rising in your heart. You carried your pain with dignity, choosing solitude over shallow comfort, healing over being misunderstood, and peace over staying in spaces where your soul had to shrink to fit. And in that journey of leaving behind what no longer resonated, you believed that no one saw the silent courage it took. You believed that when you turned your back on places and people that no longer honored your spirit, your story would be twisted and your heart misread. But dear child, heaven saw, and more than that, someone else saw too. There was a soul, quiet and still, who had been observing you long before you walked away. They watched how you tried to fix what was broken, how you gave chance after chance, how you swallowed your hurt and smiled anyway. They saw how you clung to hope long after others would have let go, and how you finally, with trembling strength, chose yourself. And when you were no longer in the room to speak for your journey, when someone else dared to question your character, mock your exit, or simplify your pain into a shallow story, this soul could no longer keep quiet. They stood up not out of obligation, but because their heart broke for what they knew to be true, that you did not walk away lightly, and that your absence was not an escape, but an act of healing. They spoke with fire, but it was a calm fire, steady and rooted in truth. You don't know what they carried, they said. You don't know what they tried to salvage. They didn't leave because they gave up. They left because no one met them halfway. You don't get to judge their silence when you never truly listen to their voice. Beloved, in that moment, the room grew still. The energy shifted, and even heaven leaned in to listen. Because when one soul speaks the truth of another with such depth and compassion, it becomes more than words. It becomes a prayer. This person did not speak for applause. They spoke because your leaving had left a space, and that space revealed more about those who remained than about the one who departed. And as they defended your name, what they were really doing was honoring the unseen parts of you, the parts that had been broken and rebuilt in silence, the parts that had loved too deeply for too long, and the parts that had finally chosen to rise. This moment, dear child, was not just a defense. It was a recognition. Your journey of walking away, of choosing the unknown over the familiar pain, became the very thing that woke this person up. They realized that your absence was not just a void. It was a mirror. And in that mirror, they saw what they had overlooked for far too long. Your strength, your honesty, your sacred worth. And though you weren't there to witness it, their words reached your spirit. Energetically, their voice wrapped around your name and carried it back to the light. No longer a whisper of departure, but a song of survival. The angels want you to know that this soul who spoke for you has changed because of it. Their awareness is deepening. Their connection to you is strengthening. They may not have known what to say when you were silently leaving, but now they carry your truth with reverence. They will not let others diminish your story. They will not let your name be spoken in vain, because now they know. Now they see. And what they see, they will protect. So let your heart rest in this truth, dear one. The path you chose, the decision to walk away, was never a step into loneliness. It was a step into divine alignment. And though the journey may have felt empty at times, you were never alone. Heaven walked beside you. And now, a human soul has walked back into the story, not to pull you into the past, but to honor the road you had the courage to walk alone. You are not forgotten. You are not misunderstood. You are deeply, profoundly seen. If this message touched the part of you that had to let go, that had to walk away with trembling faith, that chose silence when noise would have been easier, write in the comments, "They defended my journey. My silence was not weakness. Heaven knows why I walked away." Dear child, there is a kind of love that does not speak loudly but is felt in the quiet ways someone guards your name even when you are not around. There is a kind of loyalty that does not need to be announced because it is deeply rooted in the soul of someone who has already chosen you, not just in a romantic way, not just in fleeting affection, but in a soul-bonded recognition that your heart belongs to something sacred and whole. And you, beloved, have someone like that in your life now. Someone who has watched you from a place of quiet admiration. Someone who has listened deeply, not just to your words, but to the spaces between them. This is someone who understands that your presence is not just comforting, but healing. And recently, when your name was brought up in a place where you were not present, and where the energy began to twist, where others misunderstood or misrepresented you, this person felt something rise in their chest that they could not contain. They spoke, not to argue, not to prove anything, but to restore the honor of a soul they believe in. They stood up for you because their heart already considers you family. You are home to them, whether you realize it or not. What they said may not have been dramatic or loud, but it held the weight of truth. It was a quiet but powerful affirmation of everything they know about you. You don't know them like I do, they said. You don't know how they treat people with kindness, even when they're hurting. You don't know the love they give without asking anything in return. They're not perfect, but they are genuine. And I won't sit here and let you twist their name just because you never took the time to understand their heart. That moment, dear child, was not just about correcting a conversation. It was about protecting something this person holds dear: your essence, your dignity, your place in their life. It was their way of saying, "This one matters to me. You don't get to disrespect them while I sit in silence." And what's even more beautiful is that this person did not defend you out of pity. They defended you because in their heart, they have already created space for you that is filled with light. You represent peace to them. You represent the kind of love and connection they wish more people could see. And the thought of others misjudging or speaking down on you stirred something protective, something almost sacred within them. You weren't there to speak, but you didn't need to be. Because someone who truly loves you, whether in friendship, family, or something more, already knows what you would have said, already feels what you feel, and already carries your energy in their heart wherever they go. Beloved, the angels are reminding you now that you are not alone in the way you love. Someone is quietly loving you in return, and their recent defense of your name is just one example of the devotion that lives inside them. This is someone who sees your value not just in how you show up for them, but in how you move through life with grace, how you make others feel safe, how you bring beauty into ordinary moments without trying to. And they feel blessed to know you. Your presence has taught them something about love they never expected to learn. And so, when your name came up in a way that didn't match what they knew in their heart, they did not hesitate to correct the energy. That was their heart choosing you again, even when you weren't there to witness it. You might not even know who this person is yet, or you might have always suspected that their care ran deeper than their words could express. Either way, the angels want you to know that their soul has already made its choice. They are loyal to you, not just in public, but in the sacred unseen moments. Not just when you're watching, but especially when you're not. That is the kind of love you have called into your life through every kind act, every gentle word, every time you loved others without conditions. And now you are beginning to receive it in return. So let your heart soften, dear child. Let yourself receive the love that's been forming around you like a quiet blessing. You are not alone. You are deeply cherished. And the universe is sending you souls who will honor you, protect your name, and carry your truth even in your absence. The energy of family, soul connection, and divine companionship is surrounding you now. And the one who spoke up for you is just the beginning of a wave of people who will now see the real you. The you who loves deeply, heals quietly, and gives endlessly. You are coming into a season where your love will be met with love, where your loyalty will be returned, and where your heart will finally be understood. If this message touched a sacred place in you, and you feel the angels were showing you the presence of someone who already carries your spirit inside their heart, then write in the comments, "They protected my name with love." I am surrounded by true soul family. I am no longer alone. Dear child, everything in this universe turns in divine rhythm. Even the moments when you feel forgotten, misunderstood, or silently judged by those who never truly knew your heart. Life has seasons, and you have endured some long and painful ones, where your name was spoken in rooms you never entered, and your truth was distorted by people who chose assumption over understanding. But what you didn't see, what you perhaps still don't realize, is that the wheel has turned. You are no longer standing on the edge of misfortune. You are no longer trapped beneath the weight of silence. Something shifted recently, and the angels have come to tell you what it was. In a moment you didn't witness, in a space where you weren't even present, someone stood up for you. Someone who had watched you suffer with grace, who had listened in silence as others tried to rewrite your story, finally found the courage to become your voice. Not because you were weak, not because you needed rescuing, but because the truth inside them had become too powerful to ignore. This was not someone random. This was someone whose path had already been interwoven with yours by divine design. They may not have spoken much before, but they have always been observing quietly from the sidelines, seeing the way you move through pain with dignity, noticing the way your energy shifts the room even when you say nothing, and when your name came up recently, when others began to spin a version of you that was twisted by jealousy or fear or insecurity, that soul felt a divine pull, as if fate itself had summoned them to stand. And they did. They spoke not from impulse, but from deep knowing. You're wrong about them, they said, with a still voice that cut through the noise like a blade of light. You don't know what they've been through. You don't understand the strength it takes to keep going with a heart as soft as theirs. You don't see what I see, and I won't let you tarnish someone whose silence is more powerful than your shouting. Dear one, in that moment, the wheel turned, not just in the conversation, but in the spirit realm. That one act of defense broke an old cycle, a karmic chain that had kept you tied to the shadows of others' perceptions. For so long, you were the one who gave without asking, the one who forgave quietly, the one who walked away to protect your peace, even if it cost you your place. And so often, you felt like no one noticed the depth of what you carried, but heaven noticed. And when the time was right, it sent someone to shift the narrative, not with drama, not with revenge, but with a voice rooted in love, truth, and timing. That person became a divine instrument, a messenger who was always meant to show the world what you've always been. They saw through the illusions others held. They spoke your truth when you weren't there. And because of that, doors are now opening. People are beginning to see the real you. The universe has shifted in your favor. This person did not defend you because they felt obligated. They did it because they were divinely guided. They felt your energy long before they understood it. And now, they are awakening to the role they are meant to play in your life. They may not tell you everything right away. They may not even know the full reason they felt the need to speak. But their soul knows. Their spirit has already aligned with yours in a way that cannot be undone. And what began as a single moment of defense is now becoming the first step towards something much greater. A turning point, a revelation, a divine return. Beloved, you are not who they said you were. You are not defined by the words of those who tried to dim your light. You are the one heaven has protected, the one destiny has not forgotten. And now, as the wheel turns, all the energy you gave in silence is coming back to you, multiplied, blessed, and cleansed of everything false. You are entering a new season, one where you no longer have to explain your worth, one where the people meant to see you will recognize you instantly, one where your defenders will outnumber your critics. The angels are clearing the path before you. The truth is rising, and your name, once caught in gossip and judgment, is now being wrapped in reverence and love. So take a breath, dear child. Let your soul rest in the knowing that you were never alone. The silence was not punishment. It was preparation. And now that the wheel has turned, you will begin to see blessings unfold where once there was only loss. You will find companionship where once there was loneliness. You will hear your name spoken with respect where once it was misused. The one who defended you may continue to walk quietly, but their impact has set something powerful into motion. And heaven will honor that moment for eternity. If you feel this message was meant for you, and your heart knows a shift has happened even if you cannot explain it yet, write in the comments, "The wheel has turned. My truth was defended. I am rising in divine timing." Dear child, there is a fire that lives inside you, one you've carried through storms, through silence, through shadows, and through seasons when people tried to dim it simply because they didn't know how to stand beside a flame so powerful. You have walked with poise through places where others whispered behind your back, where your confidence was mistaken for arrogance, your independence for detachment, your warmth for something performative. And still, you didn't shrink. Even when the world gave you every reason to hide your light, you kept showing up with grace, with strength, with a voice that didn't need to be the loudest to be heard. You've been misunderstood by many, dear child, but never by the divine. And now, a moment has arrived when that truth could no longer be ignored. Your name was spoken recently in a place you weren't present, a space where others gathered, perhaps under the guise of casual conversation, but their words twisted your spirit into something it never was. What they didn't know, what they didn't expect, was that someone sitting quietly among them carried your light in their heart, and they were not about to let your fire be disrespected. This person wasn't just anyone. This was someone who has admired you from afar. Someone who has watched you carry yourself with unwavering dignity even when life tried to knock you down. They've seen the way you lead without dominating, the way you comfort others without making it about yourself, the way your presence commands the room not with force, but with authenticity. To them, you have always been someone rare, someone radiant, someone powerful, yet kind, someone who speaks truth, not to hurt, but to heal. And when your name was brought up with judgment or doubt, they could no longer remain silent. They stood, not with anger, but with fierce conviction. "You don't get to talk about them like that," they said. "You don't know what they've walked through. You don't know how many people they've helped without ever asking for credit. You don't know how hard it is to stay soft in a world that constantly tries to harden you, and yet they do. They are fire, and they are love. And if you can't handle that, it says more about you than it ever could about them." In that moment, dear child, the energy in the room shifted. Even heaven stood still to witness the sacred defense of someone whose soul has given so much, often without recognition. You may not have been there to hear those words, but your spirit did. and it is healing because of it. This person's voice became the voice of divine justice, not the kind that seeks revenge, but the kind that restores what was almost taken, the truth of who you are. This was not a random act of loyalty. This was destiny stepping in to protect what the divine holds precious. And you, beloved, are that sacred soul. The angels want you to know that this person did not defend you because they were bored or because they wanted to look noble. They did it because they have felt your energy in ways words cannot explain. They've been inspired by your courage. They've seen your silent battles. They've watched the way you rise from the ashes over and over, not to prove anything to anyone, but because your light refuses to die. You are a force of nature to them, a guiding light. And when others tried to reduce your power to something small, something palatable, something false, they couldn't bear it. They defended you because you deserve to be spoken of with reverence, because your story, your essence, your flame, it is not meant to be tampered with by those who lack the depth to understand it. So now, dear child, let yourself be still and receive what this moment means. The divine is showing you that even in your absence, you are being protected. Your legacy is not being written by those who gossip, but by those who honor. The one who defended you may never tell you what they said. They may continue to watch from afar, quietly holding space for your journey. Or they may step forward in time, drawn closer to the truth they stood for. But either way, they are now bound to your path in a sacred way. They are part of the divine restoration unfolding in your life. And you, dear one, are being lifted into a season where your name will no longer be tossed around carelessly. It will be respected, cherished, and spoken by voices that have earned the right to say it. Let your spirit exhale now. You do not need to defend yourself. The universe has already appointed souls to do that for you when you are not there. The energy you've poured into others is finally circling back. The love you've given, the guidance you've offered, the loyalty you've shown, it has not been lost. It has taken root in hearts you didn't even realize were paying attention. And now, because of that, you are being held in sacred protection. The wheel is turning in your favor. Your truth is rising. And your fire, dear child, is being seen, not as something to fear, but as something to follow. If your heart felt this message stir the very flame you thought had gone unnoticed, write in the comments, "They saw my fire. They honored my truth. Heaven is defending me in every room I do not enter." Dear child, there is a quiet kind of fulfillment that lives deep inside your heart. One you've earned not by demanding attention, but by cultivating peace, by giving more than you receive, by learning how to be content even when the world forgot to notice. You have not lived your life trying to prove your worth. You've simply become a reflection of it. You have poured yourself into others, lit up rooms with your smile, comforted souls with your silence, and made people feel safe without needing to announce your presence. And yet, for all the love you have given, there were moments when people misread you. They mistook your independence for arrogance, your joy for pride, your grace for manipulation, and they spoke of you in ways that felt like a betrayal, not because you needed their approval, but because their version of your story was not built from truth. Still, you said nothing. You didn't chase their understanding. You let go and trusted that the truth would find its voice when it was ready. And now, dear one, the angels want you to know it has. Somewhere, in a moment you didn't witness, in a space you weren't invited to, your name was spoken again. But this time, someone who carries deep respect for you heard it. This soul may not have always said much to you directly. They may have admired you from a distance, observing your strength, your character, your quiet confidence. But when your name was mentioned in a way that reduced all the beauty you carried to something shallow, something distorted, something unfair, something inside them rose like a wave. It was not anger that moved them. It was truth. It was love. It was admiration. They could no longer let others misrepresent the person who has done so much good without ever asking for anything in return. And so they spoke. Their voice was steady, not confrontational, but clear. "You're wrong," they said. "You don't know how many people they've helped. You don't know how much peace they carry, not because life has been easy for them, but because they've learned how to find joy even when no one gives it to them. You don't understand that some people are happy because they've healed themselves quietly, and they don't owe you proof of that. You don't get to reduce them just because you don't understand what it took for them to smile." Dear child, that moment was not small. It was everything. That voice didn't just defend you. It redirected the energy around your name. It reminded those present and the universe that your light is not for others to define. It is for you to live. The person who stood up for you did so because they know that your happiness has never come at anyone's expense. They see that your joy is not boastful. It is earned. And they needed to protect that truth because somewhere deep inside, they also hoped that the world could one day love them the way you love others. Your ability to be content, to radiate calm confidence, has not gone unnoticed. You are their inspiration. And when the energy around you turned into something false, their heart couldn't let it happen. You may not even know how much you've impacted this person. You may think your influence has been small, but heaven is showing you now that your energy has changed more lives than you realize. And one of those souls just returned that gift by becoming your voice when you had none. Beloved, the angels are surrounding you with a message of restoration. The love you have poured into the world is coming back, not in dramatic ways, but in gentle ripples that will slowly fill your life with people who see you, who honor you, and who protect the very essence of who you are. The one who defended you recently is just the beginning. They are a reflection of a new chapter opening in your life. One where your peace is protected not just by angels, but by humans who have learned from your example. The joy you have held on to, the grace you have chosen, the wholeness you have created within yourself, these things are now drawing into your life souls who will mirror it, who will guard it, who will not let your name be spoken without reverence. Let your heart relax now, dear child. You no longer have to wonder who sees the real you. You no longer need to question whether anyone understands the effort it takes to be both soft and strong, both peaceful and passionate, both fulfilled and humble. Someone sees it. Someone spoke up for it. And the divine heard it. That moment is sealed in light. That energy is now a shield around you. You are entering a time where the goodness you've built will not be overlooked. It will be respected. And those who once judged you from their own lack will now be silenced by the ones who carried the fullness you taught them how to find. If this message touched your soul, and you know the angels are speaking to your heart. Write in the comments, "They spoke my truth. My peace is sacred. My joy is real. Heaven knows what I carry." Dear child, you are the kind of soul who often walks alone, not out of isolation, but out of deep wisdom. You do not follow crowds. You do not chase approval, and you do not speak just to be heard. Instead, you have chosen the quieter path, the one where you observe more than you respond, where you feel more than you reveal, and where you hold your truth like a sacred lantern guiding your own way through the darkness. People may not always understand your silence. They may misinterpret your distance, your depth, your introspection, and often they speak about you without ever truly knowing what lives inside your heart. You've heard your name carried through whispers, through assumptions, through shallow analysis by those who never took the time to sit with your soul. And yes, dear one, this hurt. Not because you needed their validation, but because you had hoped they would see the light in you rather than judge the shadows you've courageously navigated. But what you didn't know is that someone quiet, someone you may not even have thought was paying attention, was watching you, not with judgment, but with reverence. This person is not the loudest in the room. They do not insert themselves into every conversation. They listen, they feel, and they've seen what others missed. They've noticed how you show up for others even when you are barely holding yourself together. They've seen the way you choose peace over performance, grace over grandstanding. They have witnessed your quiet strength, your silent healing, and your constant return to love even after betrayal. And so when your name was brought up in a setting where others tried to reduce your light to something small or strange, this soul felt something stir within them. They did not speak out of emotion. They spoke from clarity. "You don't understand them," they said. "They are not what you assume. They are deep, thoughtful, and brave in ways most people never will be. They don't seek attention because they're too busy seeking truth. And if you can't see that, maybe the problem isn't with them. It's with what you're not ready to understand." Dear child, in that moment, the air changed. Their voice, calm but unwavering, became the echo of everything you've ever wanted someone to say when you were too tired to explain yourself. The divine listened. Heaven stood witness, because this wasn't just about one person defending your name. It was about someone standing for everything you represent, the path of the seeker, the soul of the healer, the light bearer who walks through darkness so others don't have to. The one who stood up for you did so not because they felt obligated, but because they saw themselves in you. They too know what it means to be misunderstood. They too have felt the sting of isolation, the weight of depth in a world addicted to noise. And defending you was their way of honoring the sacred connection they felt with your journey. Beloved, the angels want you to know that your silence has not gone unnoticed. Your journey into yourself, your search for meaning, your devotion to walking with integrity, these things have touched more lives than you realize. And the person who spoke for you may have never said much before, but your energy shifted something inside of them. You became a mirror, a guide, a reminder of the kind of soul they aspired to be. And when the moment came, when your name was spoken unjustly, they could not remain still. Because you, dear one, are not just someone who disappeared into solitude. You are someone who became light inside of it. And that light, whether you know it or not, has guided others, even if they never told you. So let this message be a gentle reminder that you are seen, truly seen, not just for the words you say or the roles you play, but for the quiet strength you carry. You are not invisible in your solitude. You are radiant in it. And the divine is sending people into your life who will honor you without needing you to perform, who will defend you without being asked, who will recognize that still waters run deep, and yours carry wisdom that the world so desperately needs. This is not the end of your solitude. It is the beginning of your recognition. The shift has begun. You are not just being spoken about, you are being spoken for. And those who have walked in the noise are beginning to find their way to your calm. If this message reached the part of your soul that has longed to be understood without explanation, to be seen without performance, and to be loved without condition, then write in the comments, "They understood my silence. My truth was defended. My path is sacred, and heaven walks with me." Dear child, sometimes the one who stands up for you is not the person you've always counted on, not the one who walks beside you every day, but the one who carries a bold spirit, someone who burns with instinct and acts from a place of raw, unshaken loyalty. And in your case, that soul did not hesitate. You weren't there when the conversation turned your way. When someone, maybe out of jealousy, misunderstanding, or old resentment, dared to twist your story, to make light of your intentions, to speak as if they knew your heart better than you did. You weren't there to respond. You weren't there to explain. But dear one, you didn't have to be. Because someone else, someone whose spirit could not tolerate that kind of energy in your absence, rose with a fire so swift and clear that even heaven turned its gaze to listen. This person, moved not by quiet logic, but by deep instinct, stood in front of the flames and said, "You don't get to speak about them like that, not while I'm here." This soul who defended you is someone who has always felt your energy in a way they didn't fully understand until now. They may not be soft-spoken or overly sentimental, but their loyalty runs deep, and their sense of justice flares like fire when they hear untruth spoken about someone they admire. They know your spirit. They may not have told you how much they believe in you, but they've watched the way you move through life. They've seen your passion, your resilience, your refusal to give up even when the world tried to knock you down. They've felt the heat of your presence, the kind of energy that doesn't ask for permission. It simply exists as a beacon for others. And when they heard someone speak of you with sarcasm or judgment, they couldn't hold back. Their reaction wasn't calculated. It was divine. Their souls surged forward to protect something that felt sacred. You. Dear child, what they said was not rehearsed. It wasn't poetic, but it was pure. They spoke with conviction. You're wrong about them. They're not what you're trying to make them out to be. They've been through fire and still show up for people like you without bitterness. They've held space for others when they themselves were falling apart. Don't you dare question their character when you don't even have the courage to look them in the eye. Their voice cut through the room, not because it was loud, but because it carried truth. And truth always makes the energy around it tremble. In that moment, something shifted in the room. Yes, but more importantly, something shifted in the spiritual realm. Because someone chose not to let your story be shaped by those who don't carry your heart. Beloved, the angels want you to understand that this act of defense was not random. It was written. This person may have rushed into that moment like a flame, but their soul had been preparing. The divine placed them exactly where they needed to be because heaven knew there would come a moment when you'd need a voice. And not a gentle one, but one that could pierce through the noise, one that could silence the false narratives before they spread. They didn't speak just to protect you. They spoke because your presence in their life has stirred something in them, an awakening, a sense of purpose, a deep appreciation for a spirit as rare as yours. They may not know why they care so much, but they do. And defending your name wasn't just a reaction, it was an act of devotion. This moment has marked a turning point. The people who once felt free to speak about you without understanding you are beginning to realize that you are not without protection, that even in your absence, you are not alone, that there are souls in this world who will rise without being asked, who will speak with passion where others stay silent, who will protect your fire because they recognize its light. And the one who stood up for you, they're not done. They're carrying your energy with them now. They've become a part of your story, a guardian of your truth, and the divine is blessing them for it. So take this moment, dear child, and let it heal something within you. Let it be the reassurance you didn't know you needed, that your energy is seen, your presence is valued, and your truth is being honored even when you're not there to defend it. You are walking into a chapter where your spirit will be met with protection, not just from heaven, but from the hearts of those who have finally begun to see your worth. You've spent so long trying to carry your fire alone, but now others are stepping in to shield it from the wind. Your journey is no longer a solitary one. The divine has appointed warriors of truth, voices of protection, and souls who will speak your name with pride and passion when you're not in the room. If this message touched something in you that has longed to be spoken for, to be defended, to be seen in your raw, radiant truth, write in the comments, "They felt my fire. They rose for my name. I am protected even when I am unseen." Dear child, you have spent so much of your life building relationships, building trust, building others up, even when your own foundation was cracked and shaky beneath you. You've given your time, your ideas, your effort, your light. You've shown up in rooms not because it was easy, but because you believed in the importance of working together, of supporting others, of contributing something meaningful even when it went unnoticed. And so many times your contributions were quiet, not because you lacked value, but because you didn't crave the spotlight. You were content being the one who held things together from the background, who carried more than most realized, who made things look easy even when your heart was heavy. You were the one who offered help before it was asked for, who supported the vision of others while holding your own dreams tucked away in silence. And yet, despite all you've given, there were moments when your name was not honored, when people spoke of you as if they had built without your hands, walked without your support, grown without your roots holding them steady. They may have spoken in ignorance, in ego, or even in resentment. But what they didn't know, dear child, was that someone in that room knew the truth and could no longer stay silent. This person had worked with you. Maybe not side by side every day, but close enough to witness your integrity, your commitment, your quiet excellence. They saw what you brought to the table. They watched how you never competed, never needed to prove yourself, yet always raised the energy of any space you entered. They remember the moments you made things smoother, better, more thoughtful, how you gave your time not for attention, but because your heart couldn't let you do less than your best. And when others gathered and tried to downplay your role, when they acted as if they had succeeded without you, when they rolled their eyes at your absence or made light of your presence, this soul stood up. Their voice wasn't dramatic. It didn't need to be. It carried something more powerful than volume. It carried truth. You wouldn't be where you are without them, they said, calm but firm. You may not have noticed all they did, but I did. And your standing on work they made easier, on energy they poured into the foundation of this. You may not miss them now, but their absence is more revealing than their presence ever was. Dear one, heaven witnessed that moment. The angels watched as someone you may have thought didn't even see your efforts became the keeper of your truth. They spoke because their conscience would not allow them to sit in silence while your name was used in ways that betrayed everything you had quietly offered. They spoke not because they were trying to gain favor with you, but because the truth was undeniable. Their respect for you had grown quietly, day by day, moment by moment, as they observed the way you never cut corners, never stepped on others to rise, never needed applause to keep going. They saw how you brought people together, how you helped others shine, how you made yourself smaller just to keep peace. And now, after seeing others forget that, they chose to become the voice you never asked for but so deeply deserved. Beloved, you are now entering a season where what you've built in silence will begin to speak for itself. The respect that once stayed hidden in the hearts of others is beginning to surface. People are remembering your part in their path. They are realizing that without your presence, the energy is different, less whole, less anchored. And the one who defended you? Their words have set something in motion. They have broken a pattern of ingratitude that was surrounding your name. Their truth was not just a correction, it was a restoration. It was a spiritual reckoning. And now, the people who once dismissed you will begin to feel the weight of your absence, not out of guilt, but out of sudden clarity. So let your heart breathe deeply, dear child. You no longer need to worry about being forgotten. You are remembered in ways you don't yet see. You are respected in places where your name is still being carried with honor. The ones who truly know you, the ones who have worked beside you, built with you, shared space with your energy, they are beginning to speak. They are beginning to rise. And because of that, the truth is finding its way back to you. It is circling around your name like light, returning to a sacred flame. You are protected now not only by angels, but by humans whose integrity reflects the quiet beauty of your own. If this message reached the part of you that has quietly wondered if anyone truly saw your efforts, if your heart has longed to be honored without having to ask, then write in the comments, "They saw my work. They spoke my truth. My value is no longer silent." Dear child, there is a sacred kind of power that lives within your energy, a grace that never seeks attention, yet transforms everything it touches. You have been a quiet force of stability for others, nurturing without needing applause, giving without needing acknowledgement, and showing up with unwavering loyalty even when your own soul was weary. You carry a warmth that people often take for granted until they feel the chill of your absence. And though you may not always speak loudly about your own worth, those who have known you, who have felt your presence and received your care, carry the truth of who you are within them like a secret blessing. And when your name was spoken in a way that diminished your strength, someone who has known your value far more deeply than you ever imagined rose to defend you. Not out of anger, but out of love that had been quietly growing for a long time. This person knows you not just through your words or your deeds, but through the feeling of comfort that enters a room when you're in it. They remember the way you listened when others were too busy to notice. They've seen you offer what little you had to make someone else's burden easier. They've watched you tend to the needs of others while never asking for help for yourself. And when others began to speak as if your contributions were small or your energy unimportant, this soul could no longer remain silent because they knew the truth, and that truth had grown too sacred to keep hidden. They spoke up not because they wanted attention, but because the mere thought of your name being tarnished felt like a betrayal of everything good and generous that you are. Their words were not sharp, but steady, not dramatic, but deeply rooted. They spoke with the calm conviction of someone who has seen you at your best and your most broken, and who has come to know that even your brokenness is wrapped in beauty. They reminded others, perhaps even themselves, of how your presence makes things work, how your energy keeps people grounded, how your love, though often unspoken, is the glue that holds so many things together. They said, with a voice that carried both tenderness and truth, "You don't understand who they are. You think they're quiet because they have nothing to say. But they've said more through their care than most people say in a lifetime. They are not weak for being kind. They are not lesser because they give freely. You are only seeing the surface. I've seen their soul." Dear child, heaven watched that moment unfold. It was a quiet rebellion against the culture of ingratitude. It was a soul honoring yours, not because you demanded it, but because you deserved it. And that defense, spoken from love and loyalty, created ripples not just in the room where it was said, but in the spirit world as well. Angels gathered close, knowing that your heart, which has so often gone unnoticed, was finally being seen and protected. This person's words stitched together a kind of justice that the divine had long been waiting to deliver to you. Because you, dear one, have given so much for so long, and now the universe is calling that energy back to you, restored, multiplied, and spoken aloud by someone who loves you deeply, even if they've never said it before. The one who stood up for you has felt your impact more than they ever admitted. You may have thought you were just offering kindness in passing, but your way of showing love settled into their soul and stayed there. And in the moment your name was spoken unfairly, that love bloomed into protection. They didn't just defend your reputation, they honored your spirit, because you are the kind of soul who makes people feel safe, who turns chaos into calm, who loves in a way that heals. And people don't always recognize that until they see what happens when you are no longer around. But this person saw it, and their words, even if only spoken once, are echoing through the divine realms with power and purpose. So, dear child, if you have ever doubted whether your quiet love mattered, if you've ever wondered if your soft heart was seen in a world that seems to reward noise over nurturing, let this message comfort you. You are loved, you are respected, you are being spoken for, not by chance, but by someone whose life you quietly changed. You are being honored in conversations you never asked to be part of. You are being held in reverence by someone whose soul rose the moment yours was dishonored. And that, beloved, is a sign that the seeds of love you've planted are blooming, even in rooms where you are not present. If this message touched your heart, if you've ever silently hoped someone would understand the love you give without needing to be seen, write in the comments, "My love was not invisible. My presence was never small. Someone defended my name because my spirit is sacred." Dear child, sometimes the ones who watch you the closest are not the ones who stand beside you, but the ones who linger on the edges, quiet yet observant, taking in every word you speak and every silence you hold. They don't always speak first. They don't always show their feelings openly. But their eyes are always on you, not in judgment, but in a quiet kind of awe. They have studied you, not in a way that invades, but in a way that reveres. They have seen the way you think before you speak, the way you question the world around you, the way you hold wisdom that seems far older than your years. And in a world that often favors loudness over listening, you've chosen to stand in your truth without needing to shout it, to ask questions others avoid, and to remain curious even when it left you misunderstood. What you didn't know, dear one, is that your truth has inspired someone deeply, and it was this very person who stood up for you when your name was spoken unfairly. This soul has admired your mind from afar. They've watched how you never settle for shallow truths. They've noticed the way your eyes light up when you speak from your heart, and how your voice softens when you're sharing something that matters to you. They've seen your vulnerability cloaked in strength, your honesty wrapped in hesitation, and they've longed to know what drives the quiet fire in your spirit. And so, when others spoke your name in ways that distorted your truth, when they painted you as too sharp, too strange, too intense, this person could not remain still, because to them, you were not just someone with strong opinions. You were someone with a brave soul, someone who dared to speak when others stayed silent, someone who sought truth, not comfort, someone who made them want to look deeper at themselves just by being exactly who you are. Their defense of you wasn't rehearsed. It came from a place of raw, undeniable recognition. "You don't really see them," they said. "You're mistaking their questions for rebellion. You're misreading their silence as arrogance. But I've watched them. I've listened. They're not trying to stir trouble. They're trying to understand the truth about the world, about people, about themselves. They don't speak to impress. They speak because something in them needs to know what's real. And if you're uncomfortable with that, maybe you're not ready to face your own reflection." These words didn't just defend you, dear child. They revealed the depth of someone's unspoken respect for you. A respect built not on shallow admiration, but on soul-level understanding. Beloved, heaven paused in that moment. The angels held their breath as truth returned to its rightful place. For far too long, Your name has been misunderstood by those who only saw parts of you, those who didn't take the time to learn what was hidden beneath the surface of your being. But this moment changed that. This soul who stood for you did more than defend you. They revealed a piece of themselves, too. Their courage to speak reflected the impact you've had on them. They felt called to protect the very energy that once awakened something inside of them. And now, their voice has become a mirror for others, showing them what they failed to see. Dear one, you are not alone in your searching. You are not strange for questioning what others accept blindly. You are not too much for wanting truth over comfort. In fact, the questions you carry are not burdens. They are bridges. They lead others toward growth, toward self-reflection, toward healing. The person who defended you sees that now, and their words have opened a space where your voice will be honored instead of silenced. The angels want you to know that your mind is not too sharp. Your heart is not too complicated. Your presence is not too bold. You are exactly who you are meant to be. And the divine is aligning people who understand not just your words, but your spirit. So if your heart has ever felt tired from being misunderstood, if you've ever stayed silent to avoid being judged, if you've ever wondered whether your truth had a place in this world, let this be your sign. Someone has seen you, someone has understood you, and someone has now spoken for you in a way that shifted everything. The room is no longer the same. The air carries your name with reverence, and your soul is no longer walking alone. The universe is weaving new alliances around you, people who will not just tolerate your truth, but celebrate it. You are being called into a space where curiosity is sacred, where honesty is healing, and where your mind and heart are welcomed in their full brilliance. If this message reached the deepest part of you, if you've ever longed for someone to truly understand why you think, why you question, why you care so deeply, write in the comments. They spoke my truth. They understood my heart. My voice is no longer alone. Dear child, you have walked so far with dignity, grace, and quiet power that many have forgotten how difficult your path truly was. You carry yourself with such calm self-reliance and resilience that people assume you have never needed help, never felt abandoned, never questioned your own worth in the silence of long nights. But heaven has seen it all. The angels have watched you rise again and again after being left behind, after being underestimated, after being overlooked by those who were too blind to see the beauty growing within you. And while others may have seen your strength as self-sufficiency, there is someone who saw deeper, someone who watched you hold your head high when others whispered behind your back, someone who witnessed how you gave your best to a world that didn't always return the same kindness. And when your name was casually tossed in a conversation that tried to reduce you to something small, they felt something rise within them, a fierce loyalty that could no longer stay silent. They remembered your silence in moments where you could have lashed out, your grace when you had every right to be bitter, your presence that brought peace without asking anything in return. They remembered the way you walked through storms with elegance, never asking anyone to carry your burden, but carrying the weight of others when they could not stand. They remembered your independence not as pride, but as the hard-won fruit of battles you faced alone. And they realized that what the world saw as self-sufficiency was really sacred strength. You weren't proud, you were protecting your peace. You weren't distant, you were healing in silence. You weren't cold, you were cautious with your warmth, because not everyone honored the value of your love. So when someone spoke your name without reverence, when they hinted at your success as if it were unearned, or your solitude as if it were chosen for arrogance, this soul, someone who had admired you quietly, stood up in a way that made even heaven take notice. Not out of pity, but out of awe. Not out of obligation, but out of deep truth. Their words were not loud, but they were undeniable. You don't know them, they said. You don't know how hard they've worked to build what they have. You don't know how many nights they cried while still showing up with a smile. You don't know the battles they've fought to become this calm, this poised, this free. You think they are distant, but they are just protective of their light. You think they don't need anyone, but the truth is no one showed up for them when they needed it most, and they learned to stand alone with grace. Dear one, the person who spoke these words may not have told you directly, but their soul honored yours in that moment. They spoke for your silent victories, your unseen kindness, your quiet rebuilding. They stood for the version of you that very few ever took the time to understand. And as they did, something shifted. Your story, which had often been whispered or judged in fragments, began to be told with reverence. Their voice became a sacred echo of everything heaven already knew about you. That your strength is not cold but courageous. That your independence is not a wall but a temple. That your solitude is not emptiness but peace earned through truth and healing. Angels gathered close in that moment, dear child, because they saw justice unfolding in the softest way. They saw the honoring of a soul that had poured out so much without ever asking for recognition. They saw someone finally speaking the truth about your journey, the love you gave that was not always returned, the dreams you nurtured in silence, the dignity you carried even when no one applauded. And heaven smiled, because the love you gave is circling back to you now in ways you didn't expect. In loyalty, in protection, in truth being spoken in rooms you never entered. If you've ever wondered if your efforts mattered, if your quiet strength was seen, if your choice to keep going without complaint was honored, let this message fill your heart with peace. Yes, beloved, it was seen. And someone who saw it has become your advocate, your protector, your voice when you weren't there to speak. Not because they had to, but because your light stirred something sacred in their soul. They didn't just defend your name, they defended your journey, your growth, your worth. And now, the blessings that were once held back are being released, not as reward, but as restoration. You are being remembered by the universe in the most divine way. If you felt these words touch the hidden places of your heart, write in the comments, "My silent strength was sacred. My name is being honored. My journey is being protected by angels." Beloved child, the heavens have opened wide to show a vision so tender, so sacred, that even the angels bowed their heads in reverence. In the quiet realms where no human ear can hear and no eye can see, your name was spoken, softly, yet powerfully, by a soul who saw the truth of your spirit when others misunderstood it. You were not there to defend yourself, dear one. But heaven wants you to know that your absence was not a weakness. It was divinely orchestrated so the truth could rise from the heart of another unprompted, and pure. This was not a defense built on sympathy, but one built on divine recognition. Someone stood for you, not because they were asked, but because their heart could not bear to let falsehood stand in your place. They saw your struggles, your silent sacrifices, the way you carried your dignity even in rejection, the way you gave your love even when it was not returned. And in that sacred moment they chose to speak, not just for you, but for the divine truth buried in your story. Heaven's vision shows you now from above, walking through a season of quiet strength, wearing invisible armor made from every tear you never let fall in public, from every moment you chose to rise instead of retaliate. You did not need a crowd. You needed truth. You did not seek applause. You sought peace. And the one who defended you saw that, and something inside them awakened. As they spoke your name with reverence, the heavens responded with a hush. The divine realm, always watching, began shifting the winds in your favor. You may not see it yet, but protection has encircled you, beloved. Walls that once carried whispers of doubt are now crumbling under the weight of truth. Rooms where your presence was questioned are now echoing with the sound of your worth being declared. This is heaven's vision, not just of who you are now, but of who you are becoming, as your name is carried by truth and covered in light. Dear Heavenly Father, divine source of all truth and justice, I lift up this precious soul who has endured with grace, who has been misunderstood, yet remained kind. I ask you now, O Lord of hosts, to place your shield around them, an unshakable light that guards their name, their spirit, and their destiny. Surround them with your angels, with wings wide enough to silence every lie, strong enough to block every arrow of criticism, and soft enough to hold their heart with peace. Let the voice that rose to defend them be blessed, magnified, and protected as well, for they were chosen as a vessel of truth in a moment of divine alignment. Let every word that was spoken against your child fall powerless to the ground, and let every truth spoken in their defense rise like incense to your throne. Anoint their name, Lord, so that when it is spoken, it carries honor, not harm. Go before them into rooms they have never entered. Speak for them in places they will never stand. Let no weapon formed against them prosper, and let every tongue that rises in judgment be silenced by your justice. Build a hedge of light around their reputation, their energy, their mission, and their peace. May your Holy Spirit be their armor, their counselor, and their comforter. When they feel alone, remind them that someone saw them and stood for them, and that heaven itself heard their names spoken in truth. Thank you, Father, for being the ultimate defender of your children, for allowing truth to be their vindication and love to be their legacy. And as heaven's gaze remains upon you, beloved child, there is more that must be revealed, more that must be poured gently into your spirit. For this is not just about one moment of defense or one person who stood up for you when the world turned its back. This is about the long, sacred story of how heaven has never stopped defending you, even when you didn't realize it. In the silent years where your heart wondered if anyone truly knew who you were behind the smiles, behind the strength, behind the silence, you were being watched over. You were not abandoned. You were being shaped into someone who would not crumble under false judgment, but rise beyond it. And now, because of that sacred endurance, divine protection is not just a promise, it is unfolding around you like the bloom of a miracle long awaited. Heaven shows a vision now of doors you did not even know were locked beginning to open, of opportunities that were once withheld being quietly prepared in your favor, not because you fought for them, but because you waited with dignity, because you did not lower your light to match the shadows around you, because you allowed grace to speak where anger once wanted to scream. And child, the angels rejoiced the moment you chose peace over revenge, silence over chaos, truth over temporary vindication. That moment, that sacred unseen moment, was when your name was written in divine ink across the pages of justice. The person who spoke for you may have felt like a stranger on earth, but in heaven, they were assigned to your story. A soul whose heart aligned with yours across the thread of time. Heaven, I ask that you cover this beloved soul in the full strength of your mercy and love. Let no voice of accusation take root in their spirit. Let no false judgment shape their identity. Let every word spoken in darkness be replaced by declarations of truth and compassion. Surround them with protectors on earth and in spirit, who rise for them when they cannot be there to defend themselves. Let your angels walk ahead of them into every space they're called into, clearing paths, softening hearts, and sealing their steps in favor. May this dear soul never again feel the sting of being misunderstood without the comfort of knowing they are fully known by you. May they trust that their absence does not mean they go unseen. And may they walk forward in peace, knowing that when truth defends you, you never have to chase down false stories. The divine does the work. And now, beloved child, let your heart rest in the knowing that heaven has not only seen your pain, but has responded with divine orchestration. What you once feared was the silence of abandonment has been revealed to be the stillness before divine movement. The one who defended your name when you weren't there to speak for yourself was not just an ally. They were a messenger sent by God, stirred by the Spirit, awakened by truth that could no longer remain hidden. Their voice was not just for that moment, dear one. It was a ripple that traveled across realms, shifting the energy that once bound you to misunderstanding, and loosening the chains of false perception that others tried to wrap around your identity. Heaven's vision shows this moment as a turning point in your story. It is as if an ancient veil has been torn, revealing what was always yours, but had been hidden behind layers of doubt, delay, and distorted narratives. This isn't just about justice in one conversation. It is about spiritual alignment, the restoration of your dignity, and the gentle unfolding of blessings that were once held back, waiting for this sacred alignment to occur. The angels now move around you not just as guardians, but as ushers of new beginnings, guiding you to places where your name will be honored, where your soul will be seen, where your presence will be cherished not for what you prove, but for who you truly are. The world is beginning to catch up to what heaven has always known about you, and those who once remained silent will begin to speak truth on your behalf. Those who once believed the shadows will now seek your light, not because you demanded it, but because divine timing has revealed it. Let these final words be your refuge and your reminder. O divine Creator, let your peace fall upon this precious soul like rain upon dry ground. Let your justice be the wind at their back, and your truth be the light before their path. Shield them from every whisper that seeks to harm. Place your angels around them day and night to protect their name, their energy, their spirit, and their sacred calling. Let their heart be strong, knowing that when they were not present to defend themselves, you sent another to speak in their place. And let them move forward now in confidence, not needing to fight for their worth, because their worth has already been confirmed by heaven. Amen. I hope you have understood the topic. Did someone just defend your name when you weren't there to speak for yourself? Who was this person? Why did they feel the need to stand up for you? Well, in this angel message. If today's message touched something tender within you, may its gentle light continue to glow quietly in your heart, a soft reminder that you are seen, deeply loved, and never truly alone. And if your spirit feels moved to offer gratitude, know that even the smallest gesture, like a super thanks, creates a ripple of grace, helping these angelic messages find others who are still searching for peace, healing, and hope. Thank you for receiving this sacred moment with such openness and trust. May the angels stay near, guiding you with quiet strength, surrounding your path with divine protection, and cradling your soul in their eternal embrace. You are not forgotten. You are forever cherished in the heart of heaven.